In this video, we're going to take a look at the STIHL FS280, also identical as the STIHL FS160, FS220, and the FS290 trimmer, grass trimmer, also known as a brush cutter, weed eater. The first thing you need to know about this machine is when you get it brand new, you will need to mix the gasoline with a lubricant from the STIHL manufacturer. This is what it looks like. It has the amount that you need to mix with the amount of gasoline. So you will normally mix approximately 4 milliliters or 80 milliliters. Actually, it's 80 milliliters to 4 liter of gasoline. So that's approximately a gallon. Once you have mixed that fuel, you will be able to run the machine. Now, operating the machine, you should never remove this cover during working it in the field, because what's this going to cause is most likely the engine will become overheated, since inside the machine has a fan for cooling the engine. Now, when we take a look at the engine, this is what it looks like. You'll notice there's a lot of fins on it. These are cooling fins for the air to flow and able to cool inside of the cylinder. Now, when you take a look at this one here, you look inside here, you can see a big score on the inside where the piston, the pin, you see the damage is also here. The pin was able to walk back and damage the cylinder wall and the piston. Now, this is the retainer pin that holds the C-clip, that holds the wrist pin in location. What you need to know is when rebuilding the engine, you're most likely going to buy this part from the STIHL manufacturer, and it will come with the rings already fitted to the piston. You can see damage also here from the side of the cylinder wall. So when you buy this piston, it comes with the ring, the wrist pin, and 2 C-clips for holding, retaining this wrist pin inside the piston, which is connected to the rod. So in the video description, you're going to see a link on more information on how to assemble and disassemble this piston and the cylinder. So there is no cylinder head for this. It's just a cylinder, and at the top is a combustion chamber, which is incorporated into the cylinder. Now, what's going to happen from using the STIHL C-clip is that it's most likely will become dislocated from inside where it's fitted into a groove and cause this damage that we see here on the piston. Reason being is that during the process of fitting that C-clip into its location, you're most likely going to over-compress that C-clip. Now, once the engine starts operating, the heat from the engine is going to cause that C-clip to become enclosed, which means it's going to shrink. And the vibration, the temperature, the piston moving up and down will most likely launch that C-clip out of its location, causing it to damage the piston like you see here, and on the inside, like you see in there, on the cylinder wall. Now, once that happens, you're not going to be able to reuse this piston or the cylinder. Why this happened is because you could get an overheat situation from operating with this cover removed. Take a look between the engine and where the clutch assembly would be. You will notice there's a fan, an aluminum fan right there. Well, that fan is what cools the engine. When you take a look at inside the cover, you will notice there's a pattern with divider for enclosing this area so the air is able to intake from here and exhaust itself from the cover on the back here. So the air will most likely move in this area. When you take a look at the cover, you see you have two partition, one here, this is for the intake side, and that is for the exhaust side, specifically just to enclose that engine in the area of where the fan is going to be moving cool air for cooling the engine down. After operating the engine for a few hours, approximately every 10 hours, you're going to need to remove this cover for cleaning the air filter element. That is something you will most likely want to do every time you finish using the machine. For cleaning it with a solution, a degreaser like this, you will need to mix with 50-50 water and spray it on the machine for cleaning it down. Cleaning the machine is better for the cooling. Here is a replacement cylinder head with the piston, rings, wrist pin, and its retainer C-clip all packaged into the cylinder head. So this I was able to purchase on eBay, because after purchasing a few cylinder head and piston from the STIHL dealer, we have lost approximately 3 cylinder and 3 piston, because the C-clip that holds the wrist pin became dislocated and damaged inside of the cylinder, like I showed you with the other one. So by ordering this aftermarket one from eBay, the C-clip we noticed to be much more of a hardened material and a thicker C-clip in size that has more strength for holding that wrist pin in location to the piston. So this was the solution for preventing that C-clip from becoming dislocated inside the cylinder, causing an engine damage. Now, running the engine without the cover is going to cause an overheat and an excessive wear and tear to the rings and the internal of the cylinder. The dislocation of the C-clip from the wrist pin is most likely to occur when you're going to be reassembling the engine, since the C-clip will most likely become too much or more compressed during installation, and like I said, the heat is going to cause the C-clip to even compress more, losing its position in the location of the piston. So this is something you're going to need to look out for. That's the part number. You'll be able to find it on eBay. This is a 40 millimeter cylinder, so it's a little bit bigger than the one that's going to be sold to you from the STIHL manufacturer. Doesn't really make a difference. Now let's take a look at the head of the machine, where we have the trimmer attachment with its string for cutting grass. So this is maybe for soft grass you will want to use it for. When you have bushes and branches that you have to cut, you're going to want to use something like this. This is known as the brush cutter blade, and it will require being sharpened on both edges. In the video description, you're going to see more information on how to sharpen this blade using an angle grinder disc like this. But what you need to know is that this trimmer is going to need to replace approximately every 75 to 100 hours of operation. Reason being is when you take a close look up at where the string is, you're going to notice there's an aluminum protector. Well, that aluminum protector will become worn out where you see that mark is, and eventually the aluminum protector is going to start damaging the string when it's in operation, because it will be able to cut the string when it's moving in this location once the aluminum has been cut completely through by the string from operation. So this happens on both ends. So get ready to replace this trimmer head approximately every 75, 80 to 100 hours of operation. Another thing is, when you're going to be operating this trimmer head, if you notice the bottom where the adjuster is, that right there will act like a pulley when you're cutting where there is vines and a lot of long grass. It will have the tendency to wrap up on that area. So you might not want to invest in this trimmer head when it's time for replacing it. Instead, you're going to want to replace with a bump stop trimmer head that has a smooth bottom, so it will not allow the weeds to wrap around this area here, the vines and stuff, holding back the trimmer head from rotating. Another thing is, you always want to check the trimmer head gear head for lubrication. So you're going to have to remove this screw right here and always top up the lubricant inside the gear head with the factory lube. This is the factory lube that you're most likely going to be used for lubricating in here to protect the gear head. Another thing is, when you're going to be using this machine, you can see we placed a mark on the shaft in relation to the trimmer head. So the trimmer head is offset approximately 2 degrees on a tilt, because when you're going to be holding the machine straight, you need that angle so the string could whip down onto the ground and get at the roots of the grass. Having it set in the center will simply set the trimmer head straight, and it will be able to cut a medium of the grass, but not cutting the root of the grass. Now, having the trimmer head offset a few degrees will cause the string to strike the grass at the root, and this can also cause excessive force onto this aluminum protector, causing it to become worn out and damaged. Now, once this is worn out, you're not going to be able to save this trimmer head. You're going to have to replace it. You're not going to even be able to turn the aluminum to another position. So this is something you're going to have to look out for when operating the machine. So these are the things that you're most likely going to have to pay attention to when operating the machine. Is you do not want the engine to overheat by removing the cover, and you want to check the lubricant in the gear head. Also maintain a clean machine. Every time you finish using it, you want to clean it off, because if you let the dirt and the grass, sap, to build up on the machine, at a later time it's going to become very difficult to clean. And like I say, if you have dirt built up on the surface, it's going to have a disadvantage in cooling the trimmer, engine, and the head. Normally when you're going to be operating the trimmer, down here it's going to get a little hot. So you want to keep it cool by keeping it clean, because when you're brushing through the grass, if there's moisture in the grass, the moisture will build up onto the aluminum surface and enable the head to stay cool. There's one last thing that you need to know about the gas tank. Most of the time when you finish using the machine, you're going to want to refill the gas tank and close it, so later on at another time you could just pick up the machine and run with it to use. Well, in some case that's not a good idea, because what's going to happen is when you fill that gas tank, you're going to notice when you pick up the machine to run, this seam right here, you're going to notice it's going to have a lot of fuel on it. And when you pick up the machine, there's going to be a little red of the oil residue on the ground. So what you need to understand is this fuel tank is made of a plastic, and I'm assuming it should be a fuel resistance plastic, a oil resistant plastic. But what you will notice is there's a seam between the plastic in this area, and by having fuel sitting inside of the tank, it's going to leak from this area very slowly. Maybe in the 2 to 3 days, you're going to notice down here saturated with that pink, red oil film on the bottom. So that is another thing you want to look at.